Today, I was thinking about talking about some spiritual misconceptions. I think in spirituality, we can get a lot of ideas of, I hear teachers talking about their spiritual experiences. I hear teachers talk about their relationship with their guides, and why isn't that happening to me? Why do some people seem to get a bunch of spiritual experiences, and why am I do I feel like I'm left out for not having that many, or for not having super huge ones, and thinking that we're doing something wrong because of how little spiritual experiences we're having, or that we're doing something right even because we're having a ton of spiritual experiences. And in truth, your spiritual experiences is the universe is not rewarding you for being a good spiritual student by giving you a spiritual experience, like having a dream where you feel your angel carrying you and showing you things that will help you in this lifetime, or even being awake, and maybe we see a guide standing next to us. Maybe we hear angel wings flutter when we think of an inspired thought or think about moving in a direction that would be healthy for us. Or maybe we're someone that hears guides talk to us, or whatever type of spiritual experiences you're having are the ones you need to help you grow and evolve. And your guides are not holding back spiritual experiences from you because you can't handle it. I'd say there's like a little bit of the experiences you have will be from the level of maturity you have, or your willingness to be open to experiences. That is a little part of it, but a bigger chunk of why we have spiritual experiences, or why we don't have spiritual experiences, is because the experience we have is what we need to help expand our awareness, help us grow. And it was the perfect moment for us to expand and grow, which from an experience, which is why we're given a spiritual experience. It isn't so much that the ones that are doing a ton of spirit, the ones who are working super hard in spirituality get rewarded with spiritual experiences, and maybe I do a little practice every day, and I try and be intentional and mindful and thoughtful about how I move through the world, and I'm aligned in integrity of not hurting other people's hearts, or not forming overly strong attachments to people by dating them who are out of alignment. Maybe I'm doing all that, but maybe I'm not having that many spiritual experiences. And it might be that the spiritual experiences would be more of a distraction at this time than they would be helping or serving you. And so the universe is always looking at how to serve you. And it's always looking at, if I gave them a spiritual experience, or if I gave them a reminder of their immaculate glory, if I gave them a vision of seeing an angel or guide, or getting a clear message, is that actually going to help them grow? Or is that going to hold them back, and they're going to give their power away to that experience and then work super hard to manifest another experience, thinking that if another experience doesn't happen, that they've all of a sudden fallen into hell, or are on God's hit list? And it's something that it's, I would say it's a common belief of, if I'm not having spiritual experiences, even though I have a spiritual practice, I must be doing something wrong. Not actually the case. The truth is, you might just be in a little bit more of an egoic orientation of giving your power away to God, or to angels, or to guides, and so they'll work a little bit more behind the scene in your life, or do things things for you, and you might not even be aware of how they helped you or the guidance they gave you. So they're not distracting you from your human experience, because we are souls, we are spirits coming to have a human experience, not humans trying to touch into spirit. And really, you can think of yourself as like a member of your angelic team. You're not some low level being who got punished and sent to earth and is trying to connect to the angels. You are a high level angel who saw earth was in need of help and said, I will be brave enough, even though I could get shot, I could get abused, I could get traumatized. I am willing to risk that risk in order to help this planet. You were the bravest and courageous angel on the team. And then we get here and we think, oh, I need to connect to this angel. I need to connect to my angels. I need to connect to my guides. And until I do that, I must be a shitty spiritual student. And it's like, no, you're giving your power away to your angels and guides. And so they're not going to allow you to see them, or they're not going to give you very many signs that they're with you, because they don't want to distract you from the mission at hand, which is for you to live fully alive as a human. And we do that by being anchored in reality, not spending all our time in spiritual realms and thinking that we are living our best life while avoiding this life. And that's something I had to learn. And it's something I'm still working through, if I'm going to be honest. Like I have spent a lot of time like I recently had a reading done by someone who reads Akashic records, and that isn't something that I quite know how to do yet. So I had someone else go in a group reading, and they read my Akashic records, and they said I had a fair amount of lifetimes as a martyr, which a martyr is like sacrificing yourself to a higher good. But that also means in this lifetime, I have a tendency or orientation to sacrifice my needs as a human and give all my power away to messages or to my guides or to my spiritual practices or connecting to those realms, and not enough time being here on the planet. And what I've been realizing lately for me is, while I sometimes see my guides, and I sometimes, when I have an inspired thought and I think I'll act on that, a guide will show up next to me. It doesn't happen all the time, but every now and then that will be an experience I have as a confirmation of that is a good direction to move. And um and and even though that is an experience I have, what I've come to realize is, if in order for me to have a relationship with my guides where they can appear to me and give me messages, I have to stop giving my power away to them. And I have to be willing to listen to the needs of my body, willing to listen to the needs of my life, and put that in equal balance with the messages of angels or guides, and not prioritizing their messages and then ignoring the needs of my life or ignoring the needs of my body. Like I had an experience on Wednesday where, like, I have an injury, I have an injured knee, injured shoulder, and I really like movement. I'm someone who, before these injuries, very physically active, even still with these injuries, fairly physically active as to the best of my ability. And I really like to dance, and I go to ecstatic dance, which, if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's like a sober dance party. And I've been trying to go less to give my knee rest. And also I dance with other people. So then sometimes dancing with other people, they don't know my shoulder's injured and they'll pull on my arm, and to give my shoulder rest as well. And I heard Wednesday morning, I was sitting in meditation, and as soon as my mind really entered a quiet space, I heard, go to ecstatic dance. And in my head, I thought, I'm not going to do that. And then I was like, wait, that might be a message for my guide. Maybe I should go to ecstatic dance today. And so the day went by, came time to decide. I was like, I'll go explore that. And what I found, and when I thought I'll go and explore that, how did my body feel? My knee felt rather tired as I had spent the day kind of walking around and fairly busy, and my shoulder felt okay, but my knee felt like it needed rest. And I went to ecstatic dance and it was a lot of fun. And I saw a lot of people that I love and care about. And when I finished ecstatic dance, my knee felt very sore and my shoulder felt tweaked. And what I learned from that was that I don't always have to ignore the needs of my body and listen to some thought or idea that might or might not be a message of your guide. Because what oftentimes our guides will communicate to us before as we're learning to not give our power away to them, as we're learning to listen to all areas of our life rather than just listening to their guidance, because life is about wholeness, which means I'm listening to the system of the whole and I'm prioritizing that rather than just prioritizing one part of the whole, which you could think of as your angels and guides. And sometimes we're going to and a lot of times our inspired thoughts, our inspired ideas are really our guides just dropping in messages for us, dropping in ideas of directions you should move in. And it's something to be aware of. If I keep on having the same inspired action thought of like, I think I need to go sign up at this gym, or I should go get a bike and go for a bike ride, or I really should go to this new part of the city that I've never been to before, or try this new thing. If we're having this inspired action come over and over and over again that we believe is a healthy choice, that's usually our guides continuing us to give us the same nudge of, you should go and act on this because this will add value to our life. But in the same part, if you feel tired that day or you feel like you need rest that day, you don't have to act on that day. And so, can I listen to the needs of my body, the needs of my life, and receive messages without giving all my power away to that angel or guide or to that inspired thought? And that has been a real journey in my life. I have spent time just fully going for meditation, like meditating every day on end, and then adding a fast to that, and then trying to drink less water so I can sit longer in meditation. And what you realize is, no, when I give all my power away to my guides, or when I give all my power away to a spiritual practice, I end up I end up ignoring what the message really is, which is like, maybe explore this, but do it in balance, which is balance with the areas of your life, balance with what you need to get done in your life, balance with what your body needs, and not giving all your power away to an inspired action. Like for me, the guidance probably would have been, try sitting in meditation a little bit longer. And instead of taking that and trying that, I ended up sitting in meditation for way too long and having to move back in with my parents and going through and getting hospitalized and a bunch of other things that were not good for Luke. And so that has been a real journey of me, and it for me, and it's learning that, like, for me, a lot of my spiritual experiences, like huge like awakenings, like I've had an experience where was in the middle of the night and I saw hooded beings come in a circle around me and lift me out of my body. And then all of a sudden I was popped in a new body, and it was the ascended master version of me. Because the ascended master version of you exists out of time. Like, there's a version of you that's completed all your lifetimes. There's the version of you in this lifetime. There's a version of you before any lifetimes you lived. And the version of you before any lifetimes you end is your deepest level of innocence, which you always have access to and never lose, no matter what hard experiences you go through. The version you are in now is like the middle point, or the version of you where your oversoul is focusing, or one of the places your oversoul and higher self is focusing during this part of space and time. And then there's the version of you that's lived every lifetime, which is like your higher mind or your deepest wisdom. And that would essentially, it would be your higher self or your oversoul, which it goes like your higher self is like the spokesperson for your oversoul, from how I understand it, which is in your oversoul is like your first division off of source or God or the creator or the light, whatever you want to call it. Um, and so with that, this is what I was wanting to talk about is like, oh, I was talking about my ascended master self. Uh, but yeah, so you always have access. The ascended master that you are is exists now. It doesn't exist in the future because the future is just a memory of the present, and the past is a memory of the present, and all there really is the present moment. And so the ascended master version of yourself you can have access to, and one of your guides may just be the ascended version of who you are in this moment, which is an interesting thought to think. But where I was going with that is I've had huge spiritual experiences. I've had experiences where I saw my ascended master self and I looked like this jacked WWE wrestler with like the most pure, like silvery, like, I don't know, like unicorn essence, long hair, silvery white hair or like pearly white hair, maybe. I don't know how to describe the color, but and then I looked into my eyes and I had dark blue eyes with lightning bolts in them. And that was an experience that I experienced. And I've had other experiences where like I was like flying, I was like fell asleep, and then all of a sudden I was flying through what felt like a wormhole or a tunnel or something like that. And I could feel an angel holding my shoulders, and all of a sudden I was dropped into a new space, and it kind of looked like this um like copper. It had like this copper tile and these big pillars, and it would like what you would imagine like some like government or bank building. I landed there and it felt real. It felt like I was actually there. It didn't feel physical, but it like the floor had firmness to it. And like if you would walk it, like you could hear your heels click. Like it felt maybe not physical, but it felt like I was actually in this building of some sorts, even though I was sleeping. And uh and and it was like visceral, and there was other people there, and someone came up and like, oh, it's your first time here. And what I understand from that experience is I received some type of life review during that time, and those experiences happened at the very beginning of my spiritual journey. And there's still like 7 years later, 6 years later, there's still some of the biggest spiritual experiences I've ever had. And I'm talking about this to point out that your spiritual experiences, even when they're not going to necessarily get bigger, or you're not necessarily going to have them based on how evolved you are. You're going to have them when you need them, which is what I was trying to point out. And the same goes with like talking to your guides or seeing a guide and having it communicate with you. If you give your power away to your guide, that isn't going to be how they're going to work with you. And for some people, their intuition is just going to work in different ways. And it doesn't mean that your guides aren't with you or they don't care about you. It's just that it's just going to be more, everyone's intuition works uniquely. Everyone even receives guidance slightly uniquely, and they will just work with you different based on what's going to help your life move forward, or what did the divine desire to experience its relationship with its guides like in this life. And just as a little caveat, some of the biggest spiritual experiences I've had has been at like healing retreats, like doing somatic healing work, like as a workshop, like attending, or even going to see spiritual teachers talk like at a retreat center. And I think it just like maybe the retreat environment and it being like a healing workshop opens up your psychic senses a little bit more, opens your heart to be able to receive a little bit more. And so if we really find ourselves craving a spiritual experience, maybe try doing a healing workshop with a healer you really admire. You might be like a lot of the workshops I've done, I've had like fairly big spiritual experiences at. So, and that's typically where I receive most of them. So, if we want a spiritual experience, maybe try doing a healing workshop, somatic therapy, Reiki, sound, even a sound healing workshop, probably, or going to see a spiritual teacher we really admire. Might open us up in the right way for us to receive a little bit more guidance or a cool experience. But even to go back to what I was talking about, is even your angels and guides that might just work with you differently. And like, it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It just is how the divine wants to experience working with its angels and guides as you. And you could be a highly evolved, super mature, aligned in integrity person and still not have the experience of seeing guides and having them communicate with you. And really, your angels and guides are just higher aspects of your consciousness, which is interesting to think about. And it's about, and eventually we get to a point of embodying them, which means that they are conscious who they are, how they show up to you. Their energy fully merges with you and gets grounded into your root chakra and earth star chakra. And you start to see in whatever they represent to you, whether it's honesty, whether it's deep kindness and love, you become that and you start to move through the world like that, and you anchor the wisdom and maturity that they represented, and whatever guidance they're giving to you is helping you move into a direction over time, whether it's in this lifetime or a couple lifetimes down the road, where you can fully receive their energy and fully ground it into you. And then it's no longer you hearing a guide, but you become the guide for many others on this planet. Which is, yeah. Um, and so, like for me, how my intuition works when I'm working with people, when I'm doing these videos, is oftentimes I get impressions, and or like the guidance of, like, some people hear a guide talking to their ear. For me, it's a little bit more simultaneous, where I just start talking and I don't always know where the conversation is going, but the words just come through me of what people need to hear. And I channel, which, if you don't know what that is, channeling is essentially like your brain is moving into a flow state, or your brain wave is changing into a little bit of a higher state, or maybe a lot of bit of a higher state, to access more guidance, to access more psychic impressions and sensations, and to be able to feel deeper, to then be able to communicate a message that your angels, your guides, your higher forms of consciousness can either speak through you or can give you the message to speak. And there's trance channels, which means someone removes their personality and their humanness out of the way, and their angel and guide merges with them fully and just speaks through their body. And then there's conscious channels, which is what I do, where they send essentially your brainwave switches states, they send energy through you, and I'm just translating the energy. But Luke, the human, is still very much in the conversation. And for a conscious channel, the journey is like conscious channel, the gift of being conscious channel is it's more relatable than, and it's more like I can talk about my life a little bit better than if an angel was giving this message through me, even though we are a member of the angelic team. We are on the deepest level an angel, but if a guide or an angel were to like push, like if I were to push away my humanness and just allow a guide or angel to speak through me that hasn't really had my experiences, the talk would likely be a little less relatable or a little less able to talk about like direct human experiences than if my personality structure is still here. So that's the gift of conscious channels, is it's a little bit more relatable. And then there's trance channels, which are the humanist gets pulled away, and theirs is a little bit, probably a little bit more potent energy wise. And also it's maybe a little bit more of a pure message, can be, I guess. Sometimes it depends, like everyone has filters still, even when they're trans channeling. So I've definitely heard trans channels say stuff where I'm like, that doesn't sound true. But for I think for the most part, it tends to be like they're able to pull through like higher spiritual wisdom or knowledge that the human might really not know. uh, and for me, like when I'm doing this work, like I usually have like a general idea of the concepts, and like when they give me something that is a little bit stretches my boundaries, it's like I've heard of something similar because I've been on this path for a while. And so for I'd say for conscious channels, it's about taking out the relatableness of this talk and making it more, or being able to move more into the uncertain, more into the unknown, bring through higher knowledge that you might not know. That's like, or like having or giving a little bit more of a powerful or pure message that a guide could give, like pure energy wise or stronger energy wise. And then for a trance channel, it's about like the journey is eventually making it more and more relatable and more human and more able to talk on people's lives rather than just giving like spiritual concepts or spiritual ideas. And like people who've been trance channeling for a long time, you start to hear the way they give a message becomes very much almost like a human is very much more integrated into their humanness, even though their personality isn't quite in the message. And the same with conscious channels, like the ones who have been doing it for years and years and years. And the one that I really know to and I listen to is Matt Kahn and Joy Kahn as well. Uh, but I followed Matt for a little bit longer than Joy, even though they're both amazing teachers. The conscious channels, like the longer you do it, the more you can bring through information and knowledge that might be way outside of what, or more outside what you know and understand in the moment you're giving the talk. So I hope that like explains some things. And with what I was talking about is like psychic impressions. And for me, like how my abilities work is like sometimes I will see a guide, like sometimes I will see like if I'm have an inspired action, like there's one example that's really clear that I remember is like kind of getting to a point in my life in regards to dating of not not wanting to have sex with people. And like while I didn't like really date or like even really explore that much physical intimacy before that, like I was moved through the pattern of like wanting, like I haven't had a bunch of partners or had a bunch of crazy sexual experiences, which is what I was trying to say. But having the perspective of like being so lost and like wanting to have sex with everyone that um, that like that I was attracted to, and like just wanting to rush into that, and being coming from, and for a long time I sat with that, and my guides kind of moved me through a process to be able to sit with that and witness that rather than constantly trying to feed that part of myself. And then I got to a point of where I was really starting to wake up from that perspective and going, you know what? I don't even know if that's a good perspective at all to try and live life through. And like, what if I took my sexual desires? What if I took the parts of myself that crave sex so much, and I like whenever I'm getting to know someone I'm attracted to, I took those and I like put them in the trash bin and just got to know someone from a neutral place of I'm curious to see who you are. I'm curious to get to know you from a place of curiosity rather than a place of trying to feed those desires. And I got to that place, and and I got to a place like that, and there's a very clear example of like I met someone new I was very attracted to and felt these super strong desires of like, oh, want this person. And I thought, can I just take those desires and can I put them in the trash bin and just get to know this person from like a standpoint of a friend rather than trying to feed those desires. And when I did that, I saw a light being standing out of the corner of my eye. And it was the light being telling me you are aligning yourself in integrity. You are aligning yourself no longer giving your power away to cravings and desires. And you're starting to really walk the path of a healer, because the deeper wisdom of that is the desires we feel might not even be our desires. Like for me, even in that relationship, I'm not someone who was not someone who fed those desires through acting on those thoughts really often at all. And what I was probably empathing was that other person's desires on how often they chose from a standpoint of valuing physical intimacy over connecting with people. And when we choose that regularly, we strengthen those desires, which is why I was feeling such a strong desire in her presence. And I've hung out with other friends, which like I don't really, I've basically never kissed someone on like a first date or something like that. And I've been hanging out with friends like the first time, and that we're like, both attractive people and feeling this desire to kiss them, but it's like I don't act on that. So what am I feeling? And I started to realize I'm feeling their desire because maybe they choose that more often, hanging out with people that they're attracted to on first time situations. And recognizing the desires and cravings I might be feeling might not even be mine. And what would it be like to, if I can sit with these desires, I'm actually help healing them for both of our hearts rather than trying to constantly act or feed on those desires. And what we learn about enlightened beings is the more enlightened we become, the less we need to consume and the less we consume. Like literally and metaphorically. Like the more you are connect to your light and embody light, the less food you will need, the less sleep you will need, and the less cravings and desires you will have, because you will get to a place of if I feed these cravings and desires, I'm merely feeding the power of these cravings and desires have over my choices. And when I learn to sit with cravings and desires and really only, I'm not going to like, you can have sex, but have it with a long-term partner who you value, who you really say this is like a holy shit like this partner that I'm single, but this partner like that I have is like greater than I could imagine as a partner. And if you want to know how we attract a partner like that, it's about not settling and compromising and not feeding our cravings and desires with someone who's less than that. and aligning ourselves in integrity of I'm not valuing my desires over connecting with people. And some people might say, but sex is like the greatest type of connection. And it's a connection. It can be a deep connection, but if we're doing that with people who aren't quite right for us, we're now forming attachment to out of balance and subtle toxicity of not having healthy boundaries rather than forming an attachment with I only give myself to someone who is fully committed and devoted to me, so that way I'm not getting my heart broken or not getting shattered when people that aren't right that I'm dating or having sex with all of a sudden realize that I'm not the right person in their life to be sharing that level of intimacy with. And we attract the right person by being aligned in if it ain't a hell yes, if it ain't a holy shit, my partner is incredible. I couldn't even imagine how amazing, like when I thought about my soulmate, this person beats my imagination because God always knows more than you do. And it even has a greater imagination than you do. And if we don't, and if the person we're dating or the person we're thinking about dating is not that, then they're not right for you. Like then if we chose to date them or continue to date them, we are settling and compromising for someone that will just eventually break our hearts, which will eventually the relationship will end. And it's okay to explore whatever we need to explore. I'm not here to create shame and guilt. I'm just here to make you aware of you don't need to settle and compromise. And if you can align yourself in integrity, you would actually help one, be freeing yourself of cravings and desires, freeing others of cravings and desires. And you would be forming relations of connection, community, and be spending time with people who actually light you up rather than spending time with people who who you hope are just going to meet your cravings and desires. And we start to realize how we can get lost in patterns of toxicity, in patterns of trying to chase wants that we think are needs. Because you can meet your own sexual needs, and you can, if you really take time to form your time connection with your body, you can meet your own sexual needs really quite well. And those are, and to feel like you need someone to meet your physical needs is a want. It isn't really a need. And when we can work on consuming less of other people, consuming less of and acting less from our cravings and desires, and when we really start to become the healer that helps heal people and bring people into balance. And when we have healthy boundaries, what we really are holding is I'm forming a relationship with balance, not out of balance. I'm forming a relationship with truth, not fantasies of what I wish was true. Not fantasies of who I wish my partner was, not fantasies of who's like, I don't want to say, not fantasies of whose bodies or whose breast I wish were in my life in the moment. And being aligned and being aligned in what is actually serving my freedom, what is actually serving my sovereignty, what is actually serving my empowerment of empowering me to choose what is healthy and well, rather than choosing what is toxic, choosing loose boundaries, choosing swapping energy with people that I shouldn't really be swapping energy with. And when we can align ourselves in that is when we really start to reclaim our own power and start to have more freedom to choose what is actually going to serve our well-being when we're not feeding our cravings and desires. And so our guides might give us signs that we're on the right path when we decide to choose from that point. Also, like for me, like how my intuition works is like to bring it back is like I get a lot of impressions when I'm working with people, or I'll feel energy and I won't really know what the energy is, but as I'm talking about whatever I'm talking about with a client, or even in these talks, my heart will start to feel lighter, or my the energy in my head, it'll feel like this cool pool healing, like maybe golden energy in my head after I give a talk. And it's the universe letting me know what I either infuse people with or what I help people clear. And I have those feelings after I give a talk. And so when what we're aware of is that's Luke's abilities, but everyone's abilities is going to feel a little bit differently, work a little bit differently. Some people get psychic impressions from tastes in their mouth. Some people get psychic impressions from they're able to see what they're moving in people's energy. For me, I tend to have a little bit more of a feeling orientation. And so being aware, and some people are more auditory, where their guides are confirming what they're doing as they're helping someone heal. And depending on what type of healer you become, depending on what you are wired to be, will determine what kind of psychic impressions you get, will determine what kind of, and how your ego is wired will determine how your guides work with you. Because I know this talk's a little long, but just to close it out, okay, here was what I wanted to say. Sometimes your guidance is going to come sometimes you'll say, angels, help me like get a job, or angels, please help me know if this is a right relationship or not. Sometimes, and when you ask that, sometimes you'll be given guidance right away. Other times you'll be given guidance a couple of days down the road, and or thirdly, you'll be given guidance like you won't be given any guidance at all, even though you ask for help. And the truth is, the universe is going to give you the guidance that is going to help you grow the best. And sometimes we're going to be spending time in careers or spending time with people that aren't serving our highest good. And if we said, angels, please help me see this person clearly, or angels, please let me know if this person is right or wrong for me, we'll receive guidance right away, or we'll receive guidance a couple of days later when we're more open to receive or really hear that guidance. And sometimes we're going to be in relationships that we're meant to not know, or in careers that we're meant to not know the next step. And we could say, angels, show me the path I'm meant to walk, or show me show me my purpose. Angels, show me my next greatest career. And we're meant to continue to work through the place we're at and struggle a little bit, or we're meant to search and be a little bit more curious with what life is showing us in our human day to day. And so we won't receive any guidance at all. And like, I've had experiences where like I was in a job that kind of made me miserable and wasn't really like the job I needed at the time. And I said, like, angels, like, I can't quit this job because I need the income, but if this job is not serving me, please take it from me. And 2 days later, I was fired and let go. And I felt really grateful, honestly. And then there's been other times where I've like said, angels, help me get a job. And I haven't found, and I haven't really received a lot of help. And it's because your angels are waiting for you to take the inspired action I needed to take in order for them to then be able to bring a job to me. And so the guidance might be, you might need to spend more time in your human life and taking inspired action in your life in order for them to be able to help you, rather than just thinking they're going to do everything for you and you get to sit around. And so that's something I've learned as well, as sometimes the guidance is to take more inspired action in your life, and what you are asking for will come. Sometimes they're able to help you more directly and instantaneously, and it will just depend on what you need in that moment. So I hope that helps. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day, and bye.